want to welcome everyone to School Zone, a brand new program here. And this is a program where we're going to talk about what goes on in the schools, what is happening, the issues that are important, and we're going to specifically focus on what I call the big three, which is, well, that's my words for you. Show School District, the Blue Ridge School District, and the Snowflake School District. So the three superintendents are joining us here today, and they will be joining me every month, where we will sit down here and spend a half hour talking about the issues that are important to the parents, to the students, to the teachers, to the administrators. And we will let them identify what those issues are going to be as well. I want to introduce myself. I'm Gary Adams, the General Manager of KVSL Radio. For my ad, I want to tell you it's at 107.9 FM, 1470 AM. So please tune into our station when you have a chance. But in the meantime, the most important thing is to be sure that you're listening and watching this program. And we'll be airing it several times each month as we tape it. So let's get started with some introductions. The most important thing is for our viewers and our listeners to know who they're going to be listening to, what you all want to try to talk about, and then we'll just, if we have time to do it, if there happens to be an issue that drops on the table today, we'll jump into that issue too. Wonderful. But let's go ahead and start with Mike Wright, who is the superintendent for the Blue Ridge School District. Mike, you get to be the very first guest on the program.
Fantastic, thank you. I'll start by introducing myself a little bit.
Let's start that.
Tell us a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Okay. I was born and raised in the big town of Apache Junction, Arizona. Back in the early 70s when I was there, we had not even a stoplight and about 2,500 people. So I came up in a small town, born and raised, Arizona native. And I was educated at Arizona State University. I did my undergrad there, and I went and did my graduate work at Northern Arizona University. I'm one of three kids. My family is all of my family members, siblings, and my parents are in education. My dad was a superintendent for about a little over 20 years in Apache Junction. My mother taught junior high for about 25 years. My sister still teaches. She's been teaching, this is her 30th year in education as an elementary school teacher, and my brother practices school law. I got my start in education in 1990. I was a football coach and a social studies teacher at Gilbert, Arizona, and that's where I met my wife, and she and I have two kids, and I have a total of 4 children and 6 grandchildren. So I'm a grandpa 6 times over, 3 granddaughters and 3 grandsons. And I know it's hard to believe for a guy that's 30 years old, but it's the truth.
I was going to say, you look awfully young for all of that. But, you know.
And so I got my start in education at Gilbert and had a good experience as a coach and teacher, and then I moved from Gilbert to Highland and opened up that school as a teacher and coach. And then later on to Florence, I had an opportunity to be a head football coach, and I took that opportunity in the mid-90s. And I remained in public education in Florence until about 1997. At that time, I went to work for a post-secondary school, and it was called Universal Technical Institute, and I remained with UTI for the better part of 10 years, and then went to work for another school group called YTI Career Institute in York, Pennsylvania. And there I was the chief operating officer and president of that organization. It was a organization a little larger than Blue Ridge, about 450 employees and 2,500 students in 5 campuses. And then we moved back. I have recently, my 2 youngest kids, my son graduated and went to serve a mission for the LDS Church in California, Santa Rosa, Spanish speaking, and I have a daughter that is in cosmetology school. My oldest girl is a dental assistant, has 2 children, and my middle gal is a medical assistant, and she has 4 children, 2 of which are twins. So my wife is a music teacher, an elementary school teacher. She'll be joining me next year. She'll be working, I don't know, either for Hollis, Kevin, or myself somewhere in the district.
Glad to have her.
Whoever gets her is lucky. She's a fantastic teacher. And I have been married to Shemaine for almost 25 years. And so that's a little bit about myself.
You know, Before we got started, I thought you were going to be the shy, quiet, retiring type, and I was going to have to really drag something out of you. But I don't know how you keep track of all of that, everything that you just told us. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about how you got to the district here in a couple minutes. But let's go ahead and let our other superintendents introduce themselves as well. And why don't we go next to Kevin from the Show Low district? Kevin.
Hi, Gary. Mike, I just want you to know, glad you're here. I would have never guessed that you were 30 years old. I'm just, I guess that makes me the old fart here. I've had a blast here in Show Low for the last, well, now going on 11 years. I was raised pretty much in Arizona, Mesa. I was born in Florida. I lived there about 3 years, and I guess I came kicking and screaming to Mesa, Arizona. But both of my parents were teachers. I grew up in that education family. My sister is a teacher, and one day after I was married, I was out front playing hide and go seek and some games with the kids, and my wife leaned over and said, "Maybe you missed your calling in life." And at that time, I was in construction. Had a commercial business, a residential business in construction. Loved it, but I found a real niche in helping kids, and it was in math. So I began a career as a math teacher at Blue Ridge. I started in 1993 and was there for about 5 years with Mr. Borton as a high school principal, and then I went to the junior high as a junior high principal there for a while. I had a great time, a little bit of a pay raise, an opportunity came up to move back to New York. My wife was from New York, and we had that opportunity to go back and live in her hometown, and had a great experience. It was a different experience with respect to education and some of the priorities, but learned a great deal, and had the opportunity to move home. We missed the White Mountains tremendously, and had that opportunity to come home, and I've been at Show Low now since, I think it was 04. We moved back, so just had a wonderful time. I've been married for now almost 30 years, have 5 kids. We have 6 grandchildren with 2 on the way, and my oldest daughter is expecting twins. I was blessed with 4 beautiful girls and 1 young man, and I think I probably learned more from them than they have ever learned from me. They're great kids, and obviously keep me on my toes, but that's a little bit about me.
You know, if Hollis, if you continue in the same vein with the number of kids and grandkids, I think we're going to have an entire district, all of our own, just with the 3 of you and all your families.
We try to help pay our salaries.
We're doing our best.
And produce kids for our schools.
Well, let's go ahead then, and Hollis Merrill from the Snowflake School District, let's ask you to take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you today, and like both of these gentlemen, I'm also a native of Arizona, southeastern Arizona, though I grew up outside of Duncan, Arizona, and I was one of 8 children there of my parents, and enjoyed that small town lifestyle. My parents were both educators. My father also has a small farm, and my life revolved around those types of things, agriculture and playing sports. I went to the University of Arizona. My original degree was in agricultural education. My first job was in Pleasant Valley in the Young School District. At that time, we had about 25 students in the high school there, and I also taught Spanish as well as science while I was there. I was there for 3 years. We moved to Snowflake, actually Taylor. I lived in Taylor for 9 years, and now Snowflake for about 10 years. Lived in both of those communities. And after 8 years in Snowflake, I went to Joseph City, and then 5 years there and came back to Snowflake. That's a little bit about my career. So I taught those subjects and went to Joseph City, became an assistant principal at Snowflake, left to be a principal in Joseph City, became a superintendent there. So this is my 22nd year in education. I started the same year Kevin did in '93, and this is my 10th year as a superintendent. Time goes by really quickly. We have 4 children. My wife was born and raised in Snowflake, and 1 left at home. He's a freshman, and thought he would really enjoy being the only child, and now he's missing his siblings and thinking we're old and boring. But we're having a great time with him. I have 2 daughters in college. One's in graduate school at NAU, one's in her first year at Eastern Arizona College, and then I have a son in Argentina. I'm serving a mission there. So that's my career. I've really enjoyed, all of my children have gone to the schools in Taylor and Snowflake, and had excellent experiences there. And we've really enjoyed our time here. So I'm a desert rat that came up to the White Mountains, I guess.
Okay. And I want to remind the viewers, because if you're just tuning in, you're wondering, what is this show? It's a brand new program. It's called School Zone. And this is really where we are going to get into issues that are important to the parents, students, teachers, and these administrators as we go. It'll be a monthly program. And this show is really just an opportunity for all of us to get introduced to you as the viewers. And we're going to identify some of the issues that you're all dealing with now, so that we can, in a sense, create a list of what we'll be talking about over the months to come. And we also want to let our viewers know that this program, the intention of the program, as we develop it and we get more into it and we become more comfortable with what we're doing too, is to invite our viewers into the program. And that means that we're not always going to take an issue that our superintendents want to talk about, but we may take an issue that we've heard out in the community and say, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to bring in other people who may have a different viewpoint than the superintendents are going to have, and have some debate, and always respectful debate where we do talk about an issue, talk about solutions, talk about how we can move things forward. That's the point of the program. So I want to thank the three of you for introducing yourselves like you have. Now let's talk a little bit about, because you all three did give us a little bit on your professional background, but I'm curious just to know a little bit about what inspires you to decide that you want to become the superintendent of a district, with all of the issues and problems and things that go into that. You said there's 450 people in the Blue Ridge district.
Now, there's 252 in my prior experience. There's 450. There's 252.
252. Well, that's still a lot of people. So you make a decision, I want to become a superintendent, and I want to deal with 252 different people and all the issues.
Plus the kids.
And all the kids.
And the parents.
And I don't know the sizes of your districts. You'll, I'm sure, tell me that when we zip around to you. Is about the same? So just give us an idea. What motivates you to want to take that position on?
From my perspective, I had opportunity in the public school and post-secondary, and there was nothing that I could do that replicated the energy and passion that I felt being involved in public education. And so my wife asked me the same question: why would you want to consider making a third of the money for twice the work? And it comes about, it's at the time of my life where what you're doing is more important than how you're compensated. And I really believe in the mission of public education. I think that's what has differentiated the country from all of the rest of the world. You can come here, get a free education and a very good education, and become about whatever you want to become. And that is a message that I think is being lost. And so we have an opportunity to have a significant impact on our community. And so when I was interviewing and somebody asked me the same question, I said, I thought that maybe I could help. I thought that perhaps I could take the experience that I have gained over the last 25 years and bring it to Blue Ridge, and bring some energy and passion and build on all the great things that have already happened, and honor the past tradition and build on that going forward. And so that's why I chose to pursue this opportunity, and I was delighted when I was given the chance to join the team. And
we should point out too that you just started this month.
It's been a long time. 2 weeks Monday.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Quick baptism for you, huh?
Very by fire.
It's going to be interesting in a moment when we come back and start talking about some of the issues. I'm going to be really interested to see, with someone like yourself that's 2 weeks in, what issues you think are the important ones in comparison to our superintendents that have been doing this for a while longer. Maybe it'll be the same, but it'd be interesting to see if there is a difference. Kevin, what about you? got you into this position? Why?
You know, it's really no different. A superintendent as opposed to a teacher, as opposed to a coach. When you have an opportunity to inspire kids, it's wonderful. I think that's what my life has been all about, with my children, my wife, my family, and my extended family, which is the school. We are a family. When you talk about the staff, be it the custodians, the technology folks, the teachers, the cafeteria workers, all of them, we're a family. We grow and we sometimes argue and discuss back and forth, but as a family we always pull together and try to do what's best for the family, and that includes the kids in this community. I love inspiring people to be better than they now are. I like to be with people who are inspiring others. It rubs off on me, makes me feel good. I'd love to make more money, but the joy of seeing a young man or woman come up and say, wow, I understand that, and say thank you. I go into Circle K of any day, and I'll see some kid that I had in Blue Ridge as a student, and they'll recognize me and say hi, and I'll ask them what they're doing, and when they tell me that they're being successful, either as a mom or a dad, as a friend, whatever it is, it's so exciting to be able to feel that. And as a superintendent, I get to do that not just with one or two kids or one or two adults or staff members, with so many more people, and that's kind of what I'm about, why I got into that deal as a superintendent. I love the challenges every day. It's never the same. You know, you walk into that office and you don't know who's going to come through that door, what phone calls are going to come in, and it's a challenge, but it's worth it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Okay. Well, now, you know, it's always tough when you're the third one that gets to talk. Do you have something that they haven't said yet?
Well,
Let's find out.
Mike and Kevin have brought up some good points, and I appreciate their opinions. I never started out with the intent to be a superintendent. You know, people have asked me that. Did you have the goal of being I never had the goal of being a principal or a superintendent. I tried to do the best at whatever job I had at that time, and some opportunities presented themselves, and I always like a challenge. And I continued to find positions that would challenge me differently, like both of these gentlemen here too. You know, we're in the people business, and if you don't enjoy being around people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. And I enjoy that. I enjoy getting to know people. I enjoy working with people. This position may not be for everybody. There's a lot of positions open in the state right now, and it can be challenging. And so, but with my personality, I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy that it's not the same thing every day. I may show up to work and have a plan for the day, which I do every day, and that usually changes about 10 minutes after I get there, depending on what's going on. But the most satisfying thing I had, certainly when I was working more directly, whether it was with coaching or in a classroom with students, I really enjoyed that, and that association with the students, and I miss that. But as Kevin mentioned, now you have a larger group of people that you work with, and it's really neat to be able to work with wonderful people. Education draws a lot of really good people, in my opinion, and to see a team in the entire district come together and work towards common goals and achieve some things is really neat, and I enjoy being a part of that and helping in that process.
Now, I want us to be able to, you guys to jump in whenever you want. Don't just wait for a question from me. And one of the things that we talked about the first time that we met and discussed doing this program, and Mike, you weren't on board yet, but so you'll get to hear this right now, but was the idea that, we're going to challenge some assumptions as we go along too. This isn't just a program for a feel-good, sit down, do all the PR that we want to do, and the listener, the viewer goes, well, that was really something. Yeah. They said everything we expected them to say. You've all said some things that I think we would all expect you to say as superintendents, and why you're motivated to be a superintendent. How about you take the flip side of that and say, there's all the good things that are going on with it. What's been maybe the biggest surprise to you as becoming a superintendent that's on the frustration side of it, something you didn't really expect that would happen? Maybe there's not enough parents participating and you can't figure out how to do it, or I'm not sure what it would be, but
Tuesday night, we at Show have a Safe Schools grant, and we have 2 school resource officers that is paid for. So the city of Show and the Show PD have 2 officers. One's at the high school, one's at the junior high. We had an opportunity to have Dr. Sabet come and speak to our community, the White Mountains. And he came into the high school, spoke to all the students there and to the junior high about the 7 great myths of marijuana. Now, that is an issue that's coming up in this country as well as the state. And it's important for me, at least, to make sure that our voters and our community are educated in such a way that they can make an informed decision. Not necessarily what I want, but of course I know which way I'd like them to go. But we had this opportunity Tuesday evening. We publicized it, we put it out there, and had it out. Dr. Sabet has been an advisor, a policy drug advisor to 3 different presidential administrations. Did an excellent job in presenting information about marijuana, how it affects the body, the brain, and other issues, especially with young men and women, and society as a whole. We had 65 people come. Only 65 people. When you're trying to help kids be better, you need that parental support. And sometimes that's what gets me frustrated when we can't get them out to support the kids. 95% of all kids that drop out of school are not involved extracurricularly. If we can get them involved in school, be it sports, music, band, choir, fishing club, a chess club, something like that, the chances of those kids staying in school and finishing is greater than if they're not there. And vice versa. It's still true with parents. The more the parents get involved, the more successful the kids are. And that's one thing that, I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's sometimes you get that support, and when kids are in elementary school, especially K-5. But as you start to get a little older as a superintendent and a teacher, I've seen all my kids doing great, and that sort of thing. And that's sometimes a little frustrating for me, is to see that lack of support. And unfortunately, the parents that were there were probably the ones that are, they're involved in their kids' lives, so those are probably not an issue, and they're trying to find out. But that's something that kind of gets me.
We believe it or not, we actually only have about 5 minutes left. It's amazing how time goes quickly. Yeah, that's fascinating to me, talking about the idea of how you get people involved and everything. Is that something similar that the others superintendents here?
Do you want to go, Mike? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go first.
But you got to talk really fast.
Go fast.
now.
I haven't had enough experience to assess that. I mean, at a glance, we have a high level of participation, but there are some areas that you, as Kevin has highlighted, they're really important, and you wish you could get more parental involvement. And so I think probably about at every stage of the child's life, I would like to see more involvement. I think that's pretty global.
And I agree, that's a very important issue, and any community or school is going to have parents that are extremely supportive and to the other extreme as well. But I wanted to make a comment going back to your original question. What is it that frustrates you, or what are some of the challenges? We live in the greatest country on earth. I believe that. And we didn't get here by having a poor educational system. And so over the years, and I started in '93, I've been frustrated with the intentional efforts on a national level to point out the bad things that are happening in education that necessarily aren't happening, disparaging education, whatever term you want to use. That's very frustrating to me. It's frustrating that we have teachers that work really, really hard, and then on a legislative level, and people just hammer them. And that's really difficult to see that happen, because I see that there's so many great things going on in all of our schools in this area, but there's concerted efforts. We don't have time to talk about that, but maybe in a future show, to destroy public education. And that's a frustrating thing to me, education. And we represent the largest industry in Navajo County. And people do a great job of working on trying to keep power plants open and the forests open, and those are all great topics. But it's frustrating to me that we don't get that same level of support in public education from. And anyway, we can talk more about that. But to me, that's a
agree.
really important issue, and
100%.
how
Well said.
how nationally and in Arizona and even locally, heads are being turned away from public education, and that public education is a fundamental part of how we become a great nation.
And I don't think
And
that
a free and equal public education. And we're moving away from that. We're moving away from the fundamental things that helped make us the great country that we are, and moving other
And
directions.
what you're talking about are charter schools.
Well,
No,
no,
not
we're talking
necessarily.
about how
Is it
schools are
something-
funded. We're like 47th to 48th of all the states in funding per capita.
So that-
When I began in education in 1990, we were about in the top third. We have continually we're not funded. So what's frustrating me is when I look at the budget, it's a third of what I used to have an operation of the same size, but it didn't have food and we didn't have extracurricular. So what's frustrating is that we're actually doing a super job with the funds that we have. They're insufficient. And if it continues on this path, it'll...
Well, a quick point. In 2007 and 8, Shola was running almost a $22 million budget. Now we're down to $14 million. That's, almost $8 million of revenue that we've lost. So what you said, Hollis, is spot on. And you mentioned you alluded to it earlier.
That's a lot of money to our economy, but people don't see schools as businesses.
Right.
We're running multi-million-dollar businesses, all of our school districts in Navajo County.
So here,
And so that's a point that people don't really understand, is the economic impact that our schools have in our small communities.
Correct.
and here's the unfortunate thing that I was worried about whether we were going to be able to fill 30 minutes, and now I'm hearing that we've got 1 minute. So that's enough time for me to kind of wrap up for us. But I think what's very good about what just transpired in this brief conversation we just had was that you've identified the funding as an issue that we want to talk about. So clearly in a future program we're going to talk about that. I think just the general nature of how we perceive and think about public education is something we definitely have to talk about. And I think that's I hear it out there in the community when people talk about education. That's the way that we perceive it now versus when we were kids and we were in school. Again, I want to thank our superintendents for joining us here on the program. It's really great having you all here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
I'm looking forward to really being able to get into these issues as we go forward on future programs. I want to thank our viewers and also want to encourage you, if you have issues, to be sure to let us know about them. And you can do that by contacting the number below, and that it was for Sholo TV, or you can contact KVSL Radio. And please don't ask me to know that phone number because I never call it, but we are in the phone book. So again, thank you all, and we do thank all of our viewers, and we urge you to watch next month.